So thank you for that introduction, Jay. It's always really good. It feels like a piece of Schumacher has come into my anxiety about speaking first. And doesn't, when you're at Schumacher, all of this feel really possible? That you feel that when you're sat amongst the trees and in those beautiful gardens, that we can do things differently. I've sat there a couple of times and had that opportunity. And so I think it's a good calm place to start with how I'm feeling, which is actually very excited, quite energized, quite daunted by what's in front of us. We've certainly had 3 months here at CoLab of being in crisis mode. And so it's actually so unbelievably welcome to be able to breathe and stop and pause and just tune into some different conversations. I've been on the call since 9:30 this morning, just checking in with what it was about, and a few people that were on the call were sharing why they were here. And 2 real things stood out for me. One thing, that communities are knackered, people are knackered, was what some person said. And the other thing is that people are really wanting to do something different and are looking to be ambitious around that. So I want to call back to the call to action that Annette gave us this morning when she said, think boldly, think broadly, and think long term. So what I hope I'm going to do in what I'm going to share with you is just share some of my kind of keynote thoughts around that, if you like. So I'll kind of just go into it then. So my lockdown read that I was looking at during lockdown was Designing Regenerative Cultures by Daniel Wall. I don't know how many of you have had the opportunity to read that book, but that was really my kind of big introduction to thinking about new economics during this time. And so what that really talks about is moving beyond this idea of the profit mindset, looking at new core values, the sharing economy, cooperation, community. And these are all things that we talk about a lot in our work at CoLab. But the COVID-19 crisis has kind of given us a new sense of urgency and also a new shared experience on that. You can just go back one. So I pulled out some of these values because one of the things that we've really done here at CoLab is to use values as a means of connecting people in this really, I don't want to say emotional, but I don't kind of just mean emotional. What I mean is it's kind of connecting people at the point where it matters. So this idea as if the people and planet matters has to originate from a kind of an inner place where you are motivated personally and not just because of money or because of imperative or it's the right thing to do. And so we've really worked a lot in this, kind of thinking about how we almost think about a new currency. So within that for us, the new currency has been about perhaps the currency of care and thinking about this isn't just about economics as we imagine it, but it's this new currency has come through the way that people have behaved, the way that they have stepped forward during this time. I had one artist who contacted me 2 weeks into lockdown and said, please can I come and just do something because I'm feeling so isolated and connection is like oxygen for me at the moment. And that's really what's important here. It's people wanting to step into that space in the way that they feel that they can. And sometimes that will be really modest. It might not be about setting up a transition town or really doing something quite groundbreaking in terms of the whole county. It might be something in terms of their own life, in terms of their own family. We can move forward a slide. So working with Barratt Cultural Values Centre, I don't know how many of you have come across this organisation, but one of the things that they've done is they've done a global cultural values assessment. So they really asked about 1,500 people, just as a snapshot look in April. They said, like, where are you personally? Where were you before the lockdown? And where do you think we need to be? And they asked them that in terms of being an employee and also running businesses. And what really came out from that survey, and you need to look at it if you're interested in thinking about where people are on the bigger picture scale, is that there's been a shift in personal values, moving much more towards making a difference, being adaptable, well-being and caring. So this currency of care is kind of surfacing, and we in our organisation are trying to interpret exactly what that means. And is it about people being all online, all isolated, or is there some kind of balance between how we do connection in different ways, but also what we don't lose in terms of connection during that time? In terms of business, the survey talks about a shift from performance, control and hierarchy to people focus, adaptability, working together. And there's this idea of a healthy culture. So what people need to recover, what they think they need to focus on, is being more adaptable, agile, more teamwork, connectivity, all the things that kind of came through this morning that people are looking for. And that there's some differences still between where leaders are and kind of, I don't just mean leaders as in a person, I mean in terms of an organisation, and leadership like senior organisations, big organisations feeling like they have to lead the way, to much more about let's just listen, let's just ask, let's not tell, let's not force, let's really look at what is emerging here. And if we look at the last slide, so this has really helped us in my organisation to think about this. I don't know if you've come across this, but this is really looking at the 3 horizons and how we apply it to a regenerative culture. So if we see there, we've got 3 horizons that we're holding in parallel. So the first one of these is that we're a world in crisis. That's horizon 1. That's the most prevalent at the moment. We're doing things to keep the lights on, to maintain the status quo, to feel safe. But also, we're a world in transmission, in transition. And what do we need to be able to make that movement? How do we feel safe? How do we feel connected? What is it that we need to do? How do we plan for that? How do we innovate? Whilst holding the 3rd horizon, which is much more about thinking about the long term and what bigger transformations might be possible. And rather than waiting for these to be one thing after another, this is all seeing that we hold these horizons at the same time. And so we've been really looking at how do you hold those horizons? And in the Designing Regenerative Cultures book, what is really spoken about there is how we have these culturally creative conversations that allow us to explore together how we change our system at the point of level of our physical body, our human system, our families, our communities, and bigger than that. And so it's really been helpful for me to think about, I don't have to stay in crisis mode. That exhausts me, exhausts my staff, exhausts the people around me. I need to find something else to really give me the energy to stay in that space and to be able then to, at the same time, host those conversations and also think longer term about how do I challenge not only my community, but myself to do this better and do this differently. And so this space we've come in today, it really is about thinking boldly about that, thinking about the breadth of things that we might look like, but actually accepting that there might be only a small amount of influence that we have, and that is okay. That is okay to only think that you can do that. And finally, to think long term. We're in this for the long haul. Let's not do any knee-jerk reactions now. Let's be considerate, careful, but also compassionate, but in the term of thinking about radical compassion, which is that we want to take action as well as to really see something change. So I could say more about this, and what I want to leave it with is to really say, if during this time we're connecting to what matters to us and we're genuinely bringing that to the table whilst taking the time to genuinely listen to what other people are saying without being offended by that we can allow everything to exist in that space and we can listen and hear all of that and take it into consideration, then I think we already have everything we need to make this transformation. And I, for one, am really looking forward to it. Thank you.